Hello everyone, let's talk about quality control. So as I was doing these demos for you, as you know, there were some real problems with the video turning green. I did find some solutions that I posted in the previous video. However, there's another solution that we should talk in depth about, and that is that with Premiere, which is very different than Avid, you're not actually importing, as you know. You're doing a link so that you're using camera native videos. And the issue with that is that when you're using camera native, if the video doesn't exactly match the Premiere project, you're going to have problems. So what I realized after speaking with you is that one of the biggest issues we're dealing with is that the original video that I downloaded from YouTube is playing at 30 frames per second. You can see that right here. So what I did, it's also the wrong size. It was smaller. So what I did was I selected it, I right-clicked, and then I scrolled down through this menu to export media. I clicked on export media, and you'll notice that I set things up differently. So the original video was like 800 by 600. It was a very strange size. I changed this to 1920 by 1080. I don't know what's coming up as 1908, but it was 1920 by 1080. I changed the frame rate to 23.976. I changed the video codec to Apple ProRes 422 and the format to QuickTime. And then I exported it. Okay, I'm going to cancel just to show you that the new video that I brought in was this one. And this one, if you'll notice, is the export of this one. It matches my Premiere project perfectly. As you can see, it would be 1920 by 1080, 23.976. And now, once I put this video into Premiere, or I put this video into After Effects, so I did replace it, as you can see, I turned off the original one and replaced it. Now the video is playing really nicely. Take a look. What's strange is that the other video played nicely at first, okay? So just keep in mind, though, that if you're having problems and your video is not exactly matching the video in After Effects or Premiere, like the sequence settings or the composition settings, you really want to export that video to match what your sequence settings in Premiere or composition settings in After Effects are, and you'll get rid of all of those problems. Do I have driver issues? Yes. Is my computer old? Yes. But I was able to troubleshoot, and by exporting the original movie from Premiere, once again by right-clicking, so I was this version that keeps having problems, right-clicking, scrolling down, exporting the media, changing the settings to 1920 by 1080, 23.976 QuickTime movie, and then bringing that into my timeline, everything was fixed. Wonderful solution, okay? So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about in this video. The next thing I want to talk about in this video is, remember, this clip is my After Effects composition, and to get it to play better, well, I was noticing that in the previous video that I showed you, Room with a View looked really crunchy. It didn't look right. Now, part of the reason for that was that was a completely different issue, which I want to discuss with you. I mean, it's similar and different. So there were a few things going on. One was that, once again, this sequence needed to match my Adobe After Effects composition settings. That fixed Room with a View to make it look really nice and clean. The export also looks really nice and clean. So once again, I will repeat myself. The sequence settings of your Premiere sequence need to match the composition settings of your comp so that all of the typing looks beautiful and perfect and exports at the highest resolution. So that was one of my problems. The other problem was that you want to make sure that this line here, okay, is highest quality. And highest quality is a straight diagonal line up. And you want to make sure that this is at full here. Every change you make in Adobe After Effects will affect Adobe Premiere using Adobe Dynamic Link. So any change I make right now, I have to hit Command S, okay? So once again, these composition settings match these sequence settings, okay? This quality should be full. This line should be the straight diagonal line going up to the right. And then Room with a View will look really nice, okay? So keep that in mind. And then when I export, I want to export high quality, and this will all look really good. The other thing to note, so this is the third thing now, is that I did a little bit more work in After Effects. So let me just play this for you. As you can see, everything's playing really nicely now. And as I was working through this, okay, note this part here, I fixed this, and I made this actually work. I hadn't done this part yet, the Emily. So what she does is she's typing Emily Cooper, and then she decides to change it. She thinks, right? And she untypes, so you'll see the Cooper goes away, the Emily Cooper goes away, and she changes that to Emily in Paris. So I want you all to do that, okay? The other thing I want to make sure that you understand is that there are a few things here that are really important. I noticed that I want you all to make sure your masks are correct. So for example, this mask that I originally created, I'm going to switch over here to my selection tool, didn't have the round edge on the bottom. I just kind of brought it in as a line going down. So I fixed it. So just to show you here, this image, I believe it's this one here. What I did, and let's open it up so we can see that better, is I added more vertices and I rounded it out. So now when the mask opens up, it stays as a nice rounded bottom that matches the rounded bottom here. So I want you to make sure that you do the same. Remember, we're trying to replicate the original Emily in Paris as perfectly as we can, because imagine if you worked for Netflix and you were told to do this and you just did a very quick and dirty job, you could be fired. So you want to do a really high quality job. The other thing to notice is that there's a lot of work that goes into just making this little video. As she types the Emily Cooper and changes it to Emily in Paris, there are quite a few things that happen. Now, there are different ways you can do things in After Effects, but I want you to note, and I'm actually going to change this right now. What I did here was I changed this type. First I added it, okay, and I had it go exactly like this one. You'll notice how this is an effect that goes from very slender, skinny letters to wider letters. It is probably a text effect in After Effects. I couldn't find it, so I replicated it by just using the vertical scale, okay? And what I did was, there's a link here that you can turn off, and I made the vertical scale go way down. Okay, so that's important to note. So I really played around with this to make sure it was working properly. The other thing is, and I'm going to fix this right now, you'll notice as it goes out, this probably has a drop shadow, which I haven't even added to this one yet. So I'm going to right click on this layer, choose Layer Styles, Drop Shadow, and now it has a little bit of a drop shadow. It's actually a very quite a big drop shadow. I'm going to just fix the drop shadow and make its distance a little bit smaller because it looks a little big. So maybe instead of 5, maybe have it go to like 3. Okay, so we want a drop shadow on that layer. The other thing to think about is that I wanted to also do a few more effects on this Emily Cooper. So what I did was I split it and I made a second version. Okay, so when it's coming out and it's going from really squished to wide, it's one layer. Then at the end of that layer, I went over to Edit, Split Layer, to get the next layer, which is this one. And this one has a different animation. This one is backwards typewriter. So what I did for this next layer is I put the typewriter effect going into Effects and Presets. I looked for Animation Presets Typewriter. I dragged it onto here, and I flipped the keyframes. I literally took the keyframe that was over here and moved it back so that the typewriter was backwards. Okay, so that it's backwards. So now you see it goes backwards. It happens fast. You probably could smooth it out. I'm not going to fix that, but if you can, try to make it as smooth as possible. And then I also played around with so I'm going to close Animator 1 with the transform properties with scale and position to make it match what's happening here. There's a lot going on. It's getting bigger and smaller and all kinds of things are happening. So really make sure that you do that with not only the type, but also with this profile picture because it pops on large and then gets a little smaller. So I want you to replicate it perfectly. The next thing I did was I split the layer again. So for this layer, I then chose Edit, and I split the layer, split layer. And by the way, you could probably do this all on one layer. I just kind of wanted to keep it nice and tidy, so I split it into another layer. Now this layer, I applied the forward. I actually just used the same typewriter tool, but I switched the keyframe position, so now it's typing on. I made sure that I had a drop shadow on it. I also changed the color to white because it changes to white here. And all you have to do for that is go into Character and just click here, right? And then pick whatever color you want. The original color I had picked with an eyedropper, this original magenta kind of color. Okay, you can click on there and click here and use this little eyedropper. You can actually grab the exact color you want from the other type. Okay, I'm just going to cancel because I did it correctly already. And here, right here, I just had switched the position of the keyframes and then played around once again with where it is animating from, because as you can see, it grows from center. Okay, so please keep that all in mind. You'll notice this Emily in Paris does not have the drop shadow, so I'm just going to apply it. It's only because I didn't apply it in the first place, so I'll do it one more time, and this will allow you to see it again. I go to Layer Styles. I highlighted it, Layer Styles, Drop Shadow. Let's double check on that drop shadow to make sure it gave it the right. Here's Layer Styles, Drop Shadow. I'm just going to open that up. And the spread, let's see, 0 size 5. I think that should be 3, like the other one. And I should be good. Actually, the spread, okay, distance was 3. That's what it was. We can go back and make this 5. Pretty sure that's what the other one was. If it wasn't, just fix it on your, on your own piece, your own project that you're working on. And then this grows. I didn't do 48 yet. I also made sure that all of these images, room with a view, the shape behind room with a view, I made sure that all of those faded out exactly as the Instagram post is fading out. And the whole purpose of this, of course, is that she's changed her mind. Now she's not just Emily Cooper, she's Emily in Paris. And that kind of gives us the feel, because this is the first episode of the first season, that she's owning that she is now in Paris. Okay, so there's a lot of subtext and metaphor going on here that's really quite beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please watch the whole thing. The final video that I made here is so much nicer and cleaner than the other one. I may just post it. All right, have a great day. Thank you.